And joining us in the studio for more is Michael Kleiner, president of the Likud Party Supreme Court and a former parliament member for the Likud. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Some good news. It looks like for the Likud, as Owen said, that the Ultra-Orthodox parties are agreeing to put aside, at least until the budget is passed, this law that would extend the deferment for Ultra-Orthodox men. Does that mean that it's off the table, that very controversial issue for the coming Knesset session, or is it just going to come up later this summer?
No, it means that the religious parties understand that the left is using some anti-religious feelings among the public, and that it's very easy to incite against this part of the coalition in order to bring down all the necessary reform in the judicial system, and that and therefore they will wait for a more convenient moment, maybe. After the revolution will be the revolution, I call it. It's a reform. It's actually
some call it a coup.
It's a coup, because bringing back the government to the hand of the public and to the elected parliament. This is a coup against the coup that was made by the Supreme Court some years ago. That they took all the authority in their hands, and we are going to modify this. Change and make it really a balanced law that will give every branch of the government its power, the judiciary to judge, the Knesset to make laws, and the government to govern.
Okay, the counter coup, as you would have it. But let me ask you, it seems to be two approaches here. One is the hundreds of thousands that went out and heard, for example, the Justice Minister, Yariv Levin, last week say, we want these laws and we want them as we introduce them. We want to make sure pass it, even if it's with our 64-seat majority in the Knesset. And then there are others, seemingly Prime Minister Netanyahu, that want to reach some kind of compromise with at least some members of the opposition to pass at least some of the reforms. Which of those two approaches is going to win out over the summer session here?
Hopefully the second one. Even Yariv Levin, in his very first speech, said that
uncompromising speech.
No, what he said is he believes in a compromise. He wants a compromise. He wants to make a wide agreement. Also about, by the way, about recruitment. It must be a wide agreement because most of the public in Israel believes that everyone must serve in the army. The armies themselves don't know what to do with all the Haredim, and they offer some solutions that are acceptable, as you said, by some of the Haredim. And in a normal atmosphere, when everyone thinks about the good of the country, it is very easy to reach an agreement. As long as there are parts of the opposition that actually want not an agreement, not to prevent a judicial reform, but they want to bring down the government. They want to bring down Netanyahu, as they did when in the previous Netanyahu government. The hardcore of the opposition, the hardcore of the demonstrators are the 150,000 voters who voted Meretz. The party is not elected. They're not representing in the Knesset, and they are every week in the street.
Okay, I do have to disagree. The numbers are bigger than what you just said, and you can't say these are Meretz supporters.
No, the 150,000 members of Meretz who voted Meretz are the core. They go, I know, I have some in my family. They go every day to 3 demonstrations.
Not in the Jerusalem. I'm not sure I would.
But of course, there are some other, useful idiots
if that is the case, how do you account for the polls that show the Likud dropping down to some as low as 24, 23 seats, and Benny Gantz's National Unity Party overtaking? The latest poll had them as the biggest party at 28 seats.
Yeah, because I saw the people in the big demonstrations. It was the biggest one by far in Jerusalem in support of Yariv Levin. In this demonstration, I was all the time, most of the time, among the people, and I wanted to understand the atmosphere. The atmosphere is never give up. And we have to make the reform, and it's undemocratic that people want to force the majority to give in to what they want. And in the nucleus of this opposition, you have crime minister and women in black. They demonstrated in times of Corona.
Let me ask you then, why is the Likud going down in the polls?
Because the people say we don't want to come. People ask them, they say we will not vote. Most of the people told me we are not going to vote in the next election if the reform will not take place.
You don't believe there are some Likud voters who are not happy with the way, at least the reforms, I'm not even saying with the reforms, but the way the Likud is going about the reforms.
Undoubtedly. Okay. There were many mistakes done. It was done in a way that Yariv believed that by awe and shock, then he will come with all the possible changes in the legislation that some are not necessary, because if you have a balanced Supreme Court, you don't need the override.
Okay, bottom line, are some of the judicial reforms going to be passed in this current Knesset session?
If the negotiation will go okay, so I guess everything which will be agreed upon will pass in this session. If there is no rush. The budget is more important, some other legislation is more important, fighting the cost of living is more important, promoting peace is more important.
I'm not sure that everybody in the Likud agrees with you, but we'll have to...
Likud is going down in the polls because some of Likud people say, you deal with the reform is important, what about the cost of living? What about other issues?
Michael, we have to break it there. Michael Kleiner of the Likud, thank you for joining us.